Oprah this way!
Right here.
I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proof, things that I could say that will back up my claim.
Got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage! Oh!
I am sorry. That is the game you decided to get in. And that game is Bad Boy Entertainment.
Photo of Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura since his arrest for the shocking allegations inside this 14-page indictment.
Hey Cassie, how are you? How do you feel about all the allegations with Diddy going on right now? Chicago.
She made me feel this big. This big. That moment completely changed my career.
Puff Daddy is currently facing some serious allegations that have tarnished the reputation he built for himself in the music industry and beyond. Once a close-knit circle of celebrity friends seems to be distancing themselves in the wake of these serious allegations. Well, there's a leaked VHS tape allegedly sent as an invitation to Puffy's 29th birthday back in 1998 that has further raised a number of eyebrows. So known for his love of partying, Puff Daddy has never shied away from going out and about while hosting such events, although some of his current legal troubles reportedly stem from similar gatherings. But I digress. So the nearly 6-minute long video serves both as a time capsule from the peak of the bad boy era and as a reminder of how far Puff Daddy, who even skipped this year's Grammy Awards and is now kind of, out of action, has slipped socially amid the investigation. So the tape, which arrived in the hands of the most powerful and glamorous players in LA and New York in a black velvet pouch with the birthday gala, November 4th, 1998 written on it in white script, features, wait for it folks, Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres, Chris Rock, Mariah Carey, Magic Johnson, Will Smith, Ben Stiller, Joan Rivers, Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, Tommy Hilfiger, Clive Davis, Ronald Perlman, Penny Marshall, Stephen Baldwin, and so many more. And they're all taking turns to hype the bash, encouraging the recipients to RSVP and to goof off for the camera. It all begins with a strange home video style skit in which Danny DeVito, lying on a sofa under a blanket, is like, "That's right, Puff Daddy's having a party, and this is Puff Daddy inviting you to come. Let's have a ball." And then the cavalcade of A-listers take turns reading from a script detailing the date and time, exactly how fabulous and expensive the affair will be, and then reading an address to RSVP to. Apparently the venue, which turned out to be Cipriani Wall Street, would be revealed later. One person refers to the "I'll Be Missing You" rapper as the legendary Puff Daddy. Some folks, including Ellen DeGeneres, tease him for his many monikers. Some other folks make fun of their own unease with hip-hop slang. One reliable source who attended the bash said, "I've forgotten how much was made of the party in the press. I think bigger celebs and moguls were fascinated by the chutzpah of this 29-year-old. The Daily News reported that at the time the bash cost $600,000 and 1,600 people were on that list. The Observer compared it to Truman Capote's black and white ball at the Plaza, writing that while Truman's party was more for that creme de la creme of society, Puff Daddy was celebrating the kind of high-profile commercial success and notoriety that knows no bounds. So for decades, these parties were the place to be. Puff Daddy had all sorts of them. He had his annual Hamptons White Party. We had a number of blow-up birthday bashes like the one I just mentioned. There were these lavish champagne and caviar-filled soirees, and these were attended by the likes of Jay-Z, Beyonce, J-Lo, Leonardo DiCaprio, and so many more. There was chatter. Leonardo DiCaprio did step back after a snap from one of the infamous parties came to light, and a friend of his mentioned, look, he just went to a party, it wasn't that big of a deal, they weren't super close, but look, back when Leonardo showed up at Puff Daddy's white party, the music star had tagged Leonardo as the #1 person he wanted at the bash. But apparently a source close to the situation is no, Leo had no connection with Puff Daddy ever since that party in 1998. The insider made it clear that the actor was not involved in the freak-offs. Well, a source shares that they were known to be wild. Anything went to those parties. And ever since all those legal things have been coming into light this year, there's been a lot of speculation about what goes on there. There's been talks of rooms just for getting it on. There's been rampant substance use. There's been these all-night getting it on situations. Apparently, and these freak-offs were mentioned in the 14-page indictment. Victims were, given substances against their will, forced to participate in extended performances that could last days at a time with professional workers. These things took place at hotels. Now, we gotta remember that Puff Daddy did plead not guilty to the charges and has denied all claims of SA. How much or how little did his A-list guests actually see at these crazy parties? Well, a couple of celebs have not been tight-lipped. In a 2014 episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Khloe Kardashian recalled hitting up a Puff Daddy bash in Las Vegas. And she's like, yeah, this party, I think half the people were like, in the nude. And when asked about what went down when somebody else attended, Ashton Kutcher was like, I got a lot I can't say. And he said that verbatim in 2019 on Hot Ones. He's like, yeah, going through my little Rolodex of stories, can't tell that one either. In 2016, Howard Stern asked Usher, who lived with Puff Daddy for a year when he was, getting a start in the industry. And Howard Stern was like, hey, would you let anybody in your family go to one of those parties? Usher was like, nope. So obviously following all of this, a lot of folks are like, okay, we were maybe at the parties, but we didn't see anything. 50 Cent has been very, very vocal for a very long time, being like, nope, I didn't go to those parties. It's an uncomfortable energy, which in retrospect, probably a very smart man. Puff Daddy's friend Ray J was like, I've never seen anything that's been said there. I've never been in rooms that people are talking about. I don't think they existed. A lot of people in the industry can agree with me on that sense. Now look, apparently all the unsavory behavior took place at the after parties. What happened before 2 a.m. pales into comparison to what happened at 5 a.m. There was a source who wrangled guests for these parties, and yeah, the high-profile celebs would apparently leave around 2 to 3 a.m., and that's when the party took a turn for the naughty. Folks would lose their clothes, which was apparently the signal for people to leave. That's when fun things would come out, and that's when it would turn into a bender. During an intimate discussion with Oprah, peeling away the layers of his complex life, Puff Daddy evoked curiosity by avoiding details about the origin of the Puff Daddy moniker. So this conversation was part of an interview for O Magazine, and Oprah was just casually asking. She's like, what's going on here? And Puffy was like, look, it's a nickname somebody gave me. And obviously Oprah being an interviewer, she was like, okay, but we're gonna prod here. And then Puff Daddy was like, look, I've never told anyone that. I know you get people to tell you everything, Oprah, but I can't look you in the eye and explain that one. He's like, no, we're gonna have a name change ceremony. I'm rocking with, a new moniker now. My man Biggie gave me that. So who else was at these parties? Mariah Carey, Paris Hilton were spotted enjoying the lavish and extravagant atmosphere. Going back to Usher, once again, so he was mentored by Puff Daddy. He was at a lot of these parties. He's mentioned a lot of the wild things, and he once, kind of handed over Bieber. Other high-profile guests included music icon Diana Ross, Hollywood actor Owen Wilson, but we're gonna go back to Ashton Kutcher for a moment. Because even though he said, I can't talk about anything, and I never did anything, their friendship goes way back. In the mid-2000s, they were so close that they were like, we're the new Rat Pack, us and Jamie Foxx. So when Ashton said hey, I can't talk about a lot of this, what can't you talk about? Because the Daily Mail is like, hey, we think you might be expecting a subpoena soon about what you do know. And sure, yeah, Puffy has said, nothing's happening. But if Ashton Kutcher is worried about potential betrayal, what would he be betrayed about? Taraji P. Henson, David Letterman, Janet Jackson, and so many more celebrities have had something to say about Oprah for quite a minute, and it's time that we listen. So people don't usually feud with Oprah, at least not publicly. So that's why it was kind of jarring to see Taraji P. Henson speak out about the disrespect that she faced on the set of The Color Purple, a film where Oprah was an executive producer. Henson's comments sparked immediate rumblings of a feud between the two women, as well as a necessary conversation about the way black women in Hollywood are constantly disrespected and underpaid. While Oprah has claimed that there is no hatred between the two, there's definitely some kind of mess and some kind of drama. So back in December, Taraji told The Hollywood Reporter that she was fed up with the industry. She said she was sick of being underpaid and that she had been fighting tooth and nail every project to get the same freaking quote. Later that month, Gayle King asked her about, when she said she wanted to retire from acting, and the star got teary, saying she was just tired of working so hard, being gracious at what she does, getting paid a fraction of the cost. She's tired of hearing her sister say the same thing over and over. She said that every time when she thinks she's breaking another glass ceiling, when it's time to renegotiate, she feels like she's at the bottom again, like she never did what she just did. After her comments went viral, she sat down with the New York Times for a more in-depth interview, and in it she spoke out about racism in Hollywood, pay inequality, and the unfair working conditions on sets like The Color Purple and Empire. She said she hasn't had a raise in her pay since her work in 2018, and it almost led her to walk away from The Color Purple. She said they don't care. They're always looking for a deal and trying to pay you the least amount. The actress mentioned how the cast was given rental cars and was asked to drive themselves to set in Atlanta, and when she asked for a driver, she was apparently told, well, if we do it for you, we gotta do it for everybody. And she said, well, do it for everybody. She spoke about her time on Empire, during which she said she was fighting for trailers that weren't infested with bugs, which, I'm sorry, that should be basic human rights. In terms of contemporary American talk show hosts, Oprah Winfrey and David Letterman are two of the biggest names of all time. For the longest time, their shows were a place where the most influential figures in popular culture felt comfortable enough to throw off the cloak of privacy and be more candid about their lives than ever before.
Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor, please welcome Oprah Winfrey.
This is the worst Super Bowl party ever.
Now, Dave, be nice.
He's just saying that because I'm here.
Oh, he's just saying that because I'm here.
However, although they were both masters at conducting interviews, for a long time the pair were locked in a strange rivalry that had everybody else perplexed. The two had a feud that lasted more than 2 decades, with Oprah refusing to speak to Letterman whenever they bumped into each other. According to an account in the Huffington Post, it all started when Oprah appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman back in 1989, and for her it was an uncomfortable experience to say the least. The crowd was angry, because the night before she'd hosted a TV show about devil worshipping, which was a complete disaster due to the outlandish claims of some of her guests that she seemed to entertain, including one deranged woman called Rachel. So when she was on Letterman, the crowd was so heated that one guest was like, "Rip her, Dave!" Now, later on, Letterman explained why he felt Oprah was so angry with him. He said, "I think she resented the fact that I didn't rise to the occasion and, knock out the guy, which I probably should have, but it was completely out of control and didn't know what I was doing." Admittedly, the late night talk show host did not help matters, as afterwards he would make quips about Winfrey's feelings towards him and exaggerate the situation. Letterman even claimed he was ill because he ate clams at her restaurant, The Eccentric. Letterman made things worse in 1995 by tearing into Oprah during his duties as the Academy Awards host, saying, "I've been dying to do something all day, and I think maybe we can take care of this," before introducing Oprah and one of the biggest stars of the day, Pulp Fiction star Uma Thurman. "Oprah, Uma, Uma, Oprah," he quipped with their names before adding, "I feel much better. Have you folks met Keanu?" Now, despite Letterman being rude, Oprah's real hatred started years earlier in a different moment from her appearance on his show back in 1989. Speaking with Jon Stewart in 2010, Letterman explained that Oprah hated him after he left her with his bill at a restaurant they were both eating in. So apparently that predated the Academy Awards. Apparently she was out for food with Stedman, her partner, and Letterman was with his then girlfriend Regina. They were both at a restaurant having lunch, and he was like, "Oh, this is hilarious. I'm gonna make Oprah buy us lunch." So when time came to pay the bill, Letterman told the waiter, "Oh, this woman right over there has been kind enough to take care of our check." And the duo waved to Oprah as they left the premises. He's like, "We got a free lunch," and that's where it started. It looks like they're buddy-buddy now, but still, I feel like there's some tension still behind the scenes. Toni Braxton took aim at Oprah in a TV expose, alleging the TV titan was mean to her during a 1998 interview about the singer's financial problems. The R&B star insists the TV chat severely damaged her reputation after the host made some choice remarks about her overspending, which led Braxton to declare bankruptcy. In a taped interview with VH1 for a Behind the Music special, the singer said, "She was so freaking mean to me, I was in shock. She said, 'I hear you have Gucci flatware.' I'm Oprah Winfrey and I don't have Gucci flatware." And Toni was like, "Well, you didn't have Gucci flatware because you didn't want to buy it. It's not because you can afford it." But Toni said, Oprah made me feel this big, which, she deserves better. Janet Jackson's beef with Oprah Winfrey is a lot more personal than some of the other entries I've talked about today. So when Janet Jackson was keen on her interview with the talk show host, she was horrified when her brother's descendants were called on the show. Janet saw this as Oprah using Michael's family as a means to boost her ratings. And there are sources that reported that there was an intense conversation between Janet and Oprah, one that has created a lasting feud between the two billionaires. Back in March of 2010, Monique won the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for her performance in Precious. Since then, she has opened up about what she said was her being blackballed in the entertainment industry for nearly a decade at the hands of media moguls such as Oprah Winfrey. So Oprah is the same talk show host who had an interview with one of Monique's family members just days after her big career accomplishment. Oprah sat down with the comedian's older brother, Gerald, who sadly harmed Monique growing up. Now, this was reportedly the first time he had admitted to his crimes, and he also confessed to being a victim of the same actions by other family members. Somebody said that Oprah needs to answer for this, because interviewing Monique's brother after her historic Oscar win, this doesn't make sense. Plus, it's starting to look bad for Oprah. Somebody else said that Oprah definitely seems like she has a mean, cold side. I just wonder why she was so mean to Monique. Monique said Oprah crossed her on so many different levels. She said that she reached out to the OWN creator, but her efforts to communicate didn't happen. 3 years after the interview, she confronted Oprah at a celebration party for Lupita Nyong'o, which was in honor of Lupita's Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Oprah was sitting on my right, she said, and then I turned to her and said, "Now I need to talk to you." And apparently you could hear a pin drop. Monique said, "Since you didn't want to return my calls for whatever reason, I'm going to say this right here." She asked Oprah why she invited her parents on the show, due to their severe relationship at the time, and Oprah said, "Oh, I had no idea the entire family was showing up." She's like, "I didn't know anything about that." And she added, "Oh, if I did anything to offend you, I apologize," which is like such a non-apology apology.
I start seeing commercials with my mother. We never talked about my mother being there. How would you feel?
Betrayed.
That is exactly how I felt.
And thanks to Oprah's weakness for theories that veer towards the decidedly out there, her legacy has been undeniably tarnished. So sure, she did endorse plenty of credible things in her heyday. Barack Obama, John Steinbeck's East of Eden, which became a bestseller after being featured on her show, which was like 51 years after it was published. But on the other hand, we have Oprah to blame for the rise of, Jenny McCarthy, who had her theory that vaccinations cause bad things on the show back in 2007, and she's been repeatedly cited as a factor in the return of diseases in the States. You've got Dr. Oz, the Turkish-American heart surgeon, first appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 and quickly became part of Oprah's team of experts who regularly appeared on the show. And he dispenses with facts he doesn't find convenient. He manifests an egregious lack of integrity by promoting quack treatments and cures in the interest of personal financial gain. According to experts, he's more like a Kardashian than a surgeon.
The downfall of Oprah Winfrey has been happening for quite some time, but if we just listen to certain celebrities like Joan Rivers, Monique, and the Jackson family, we would have seen that they were warning us about the talk show host. Now, Michael Jackson's siblings have a strong hatred for Oprah. Randy Jackson called out the star multiple times. Now, after Oprah interviewed their parents, Joe and Catherine Jackson, in October 2010, Randy was reportedly furious. After the interview, Randy tweeted, "I know how Oprah feels about my brother and family." He claimed that Oprah was airing episodes related to his brother's trial in 2005 to make him look bad in the public eye. Randy said that he believed that Oprah wanted to see Michael in jail. Now, apparently, when Michael saw Oprah do this, it was the last straw. It was then made clear that she could not and would not be trusted again. That was no coincidence. She's the last person on earth Michael would want around his children, Randy said. Then, Janet Jackson aired out her grievances with Oprah in 2010. That year, Oprah was given access to Michael's former home after being granted an interview with Catherine and his 3 children. Now, many people in the Jackson family were aware of Michael's distrust in Oprah and didn't want the interview to go through. They especially disapproved of Oprah being allowed to film inside his home and conduct his kids' first interview, as Michael didn't like them being in the public eye. A source said, "Janet is furious. She thinks Oprah took advantage of Michael's children for TV ratings." Janet later told her Michael would be heartsick that Oprah used his kids as pawns, they said to the National Enquirer at the time. The 2 women had a blistering blow-up during a telephone call on the day the show was taped. When Oprah made it clear that she was going ahead with the interview, Janet screamed, "Oprah, you make me sick." Which, Hey, I can't blame her for. Oprah seems like a total opportunist and just wants the best story, and she doesn't really care about people's feelings and how her actions will affect them. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, and Janet and Randy didn't want their family to be pawns anymore. Now later, when Oprah did an interview with Michael's alleged victims, Michael's brother Jermaine tweeted, "So many in media, including Oprah, blindly taking Leaving Neverland at face value, shaping a narrative uninterested in facts, proof, credibility. We faced similar graphic claims plus trial by media in 2005. Jury saw through all of it. Trial by law proved Michael's innocence long ago. Fact." Now, it's safe to say that the Jackson family does not like her at all, and I mean, take a look at this clip from an interview Michael did with Oprah. He clearly doesn't care for her.
We were here before.
Now, Joan Rivers also wasn't a fan of Oprah. I mean, she fat-shamed Oprah on The Tonight Show in 1985 during Oprah's first ever national TV appearance. Now, Oprah recalled the incident in her book Food, Health, and Happiness, writing, "It was all going smoothly, I was starting to settle in, and then it happened. Joan interrupted with perhaps the only question I hadn't prepared for, so how'd you gain the weight? Wait a minute, did she just use my national television debut to ask me why I was so fat? The studio started spinning. The word fat reverberated in my brain." Oprah continued, "Joan sat behind Johnny's big wooden desk telling me that she didn't want to hear any excuses and that I shouldn't have let this happen. She wagged her flawlessly manicured finger at me, pointed out that I was still a single girl, and challenged me to come back 15 pounds lighter next time she hosted." Now, it seems like Joan did this on purpose to embarrass Oprah though, as a source told the National Enquirer that Joan loathed Oprah, allegedly calling her completely opportunistic, and according to one insider, Joan says Oprah is the biggest phony in the world. She feels Oprah's real gift is exploiting people's suffering and emotions and turning them into TV ratings. Now, I gotta say, I agree with Joan on that part, but her calling Oprah fat on live TV wasn't the best thing to do. Actress Monique also had a feud with Oprah. Leading up to her film Precious's premiere, which Monique won an Oscar for by the way, Oprah interviewed Monique's brother Gerald, who mistreated her growing up. Monique, in a since deleted Periscope video, claimed she gave Oprah her blessing to conduct the interview, but was shocked and horrified when Oprah had her and Gerald's parents in the show's audience for the piece. In May 2010, a source told Radar Online, Monique has decided to forgive Oprah and to move on, although the interview hurt her to her heart, but she's still not forgiven her family, and unfortunately, the grudge could now go to the grave because her parents, Stephen and Alice, are getting older now. She feels that her parents have never fully accepted Gerald's role in what happened. But later in 2015, Monique claimed powerful people blackballed her in Hollywood and hinted that Oprah was to blame. "Thank you, Miss Oprah Winfrey," she said during a comedy performance. Now, Monique also recalled an incident that happened with the film's producer in 2015. She said, "I got a phone call from Lee Daniels and he said to me, 'Monique, you've been blackballed.' And I said, 'I've been blackballed. Why have I been blackballed?' And he said, 'Because you didn't play the game.' So that, combined with what Oprah did, was not a good mix." Then there's Ludacris. He called out Oprah after he appeared on her show to promote Crash in 2004. He claimed that she ambushed him with criticism about hip-hop lyrics instead of talking about the critically acclaimed movie that he was there to plug. He also said that the interview was edited to make her look good and for him to look bad. He spoke about this with GQ and said, "She edited out a lot of my comments while keeping her own in. Of course, it's her show, but we were doing a show on racial discrimination, and she gave me a hard time as a rapper when I came on there as an actor." He added, "Initially, I wasn't even invited on the show, and they called the night before to tell me I could be on. So after taping, she pulled me into a room and we had a 5-minute conversation. What I got was that by having rappers on her show, she feels like she's empowering them. It was like being at someone's house who doesn't really want you there. It was already uncomfortable." He then added that she criticized him for using the N-word in his lyrics. "I don't see why people like Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, who I'm huge fans of, it's okay for them to go on Oprah," he said. "They speak the same language as I do, but they do it through comedy, so I guess that's acceptable to her." Yeah, with all that happening, I don't blame him for calling her out. And finally, there was a time when Oprah attacked the Olsen twins. In 2004, Mary-Kate and Ashley were guests on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and Mary-Kate had been hounded by the press about her weight, with intense media speculation that the star was suffering from from an eating disorder. Now, on the show, Oprah says, "I know there's been a rumor that's recently surfaced that's really upset you." Mary-Kate and Ashley were both clearly taken aback by the question, and a tense moment of silence followed by Oprah saying, "You know, the one about eating." Mary-Kate was completely thrown by the line of questioning that she looked almost on the verge of tears, and Ashley, her sister, jumped in to rescue her. Yeah, you know, people are gonna write what they're gonna write, they say. Now, after some awkward back and forth, Oprah asked the Olsen twins what dress size they are, and they reacted uncomfortably by saying, "I don't know." It was obvious that question about their body was uncomfortable, but Oprah still pushed. When they said they weren't sure, Oprah hit back sarcastically saying, "Oh, you're not sure? That's so interesting." Now, later that same year that the Oprah interview aired, Mary-Kate checked into a rehab facility to seek treatment for a food-related health disorder. All I gotta say though is Oprah should be ashamed of asking that, as it probably fueled Mary-Kate's problem.
Oprah is indirectly responsible for medical grifters, alternative medicine quacks, moral panics, a lot of folks getting sent to heinous, awful wilderness torment camps, and so much more. Oprah used to do her big stadium tours. These had tickets from like couple $100 to almost $1,000, and she expected people to work for her for free because they were getting exposure and experience. I found an open letter from a performer online who goes by the name Revolva, and just reading it disgusted me. So a producer from Harpo Studios got in touch with the performer, being like, "Hey, could you perform at the Life You Want San Jose tour stop?" And in that phone call, there was a heck of a lesson in store. So let's summarize it, folks. Producer's like, "Hey, your stuff sounds great. Are you interested?" And the performer's like, "Heck yeah, Oprah." And then the producer's like, "Okay, so just to be clear, you'd be on a stage outside the event. And you know, just to be clear, Oprah will not be on that stage. Oh, and just to be clear, this gig isn't paid." Fortunately for the performer, their heartbreak was soon short-circuited by the brain reboot they had when they realized that the tour, with its tickets starting out at $99, middling out at $600, and rocketing to $1,000. And this thing that features trailblazers who never have to dig through every compartment in their car for enough change to take transit, would be rigging up local performers, asking them to do their job for no pay. So in one day, this arena tour, which I think every stop had like a capacity in the thousands, like up to like 20,000, is raking in more money than a lot of folks will make in a year, or maybe even 10 years, maybe even their entire lives for some poor folks. And yet, the side stage featuring local acts was paying in that old tap dancing phantom promise of exposure. Now, the producer did try to sweeten the deal. They're like, "Hey, you could get a ticket to the event." And they were saying like, "Oh, like people were calling us asking to perform." Back in March of 2010, Monique won the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for her performance in Precious, and since then she's opened up about what she says is her being blackballed in the entertainment industry for nearly a decade at the hands of media moguls such as Oprah. Now, Oprah is the same talk show host who had an interview with one of Monique's family members just days after her big career accomplishment. Now, who did she sit down with? She sat down with the comedian's older brother, Gerald, who harmed Monique growing up. It was reportedly the first time he had admitted to his crimes, and he confessed to being a victim of the same actions by others. Now, I think Oprah still needs to answer for this, because interviewing Monique's brother after her historic Oscar win, it didn't make sense, and it really looked bad for Oprah. And somebody on Twitter shared the same opinion as me, with a additional person adding that Oprah definitely seems like she has a mean, cool side. I wonder why she was so mean to Monique. And really, Monique said it best. Oprah crossed her on many different levels. And she did reach out to try and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" But the efforts to communicate just didn't work. Well, 3 years after the interview, she confronted Oprah at a celebration party for Lupita Nyong'o and was like, "Hey," Oprah was on her right, she turned to her and said, "Now I need to talk to you." And there was a bit of a hush in the crowd. And she said, "Since you don't want to return my calls for whatever reason, I'm just going to say this right here." And then she asked Oprah, "Why did you invite not only my brother, but my family on the show, even though I wasn't talking to them at the time?" And Oprah was like, "Oh, I had no idea the entire family was going to show up. I just didn't know anything about that. If I did anything to offend you, I apologize." And that is the biggest load of nonsense I've heard all morning. Okay, folks, when you think of Oprah, you know the statement, "You get a car, you get a car, you get a car." Well, somebody got a car and a nugget of wisdom as well. So a fortunate Oprah Winfrey fan who was one of the lucky audience members to be gifted diamond earrings, a luxury handbag, and a brand new car during the TV icon's favorite things giveaway is revealing what the talk show host said to the crowd once cameras stopped rolling. So she said she was in the audience of the Oprah Winfrey Show back in 2010 when she gave away Volkswagen Beetles for Christmas. This is Candy Davis, by the way, from Chicago, and this was a tell-all on TikTok. She said it was a crazy, crazy day, and she mentioned that Oprah, who once again famously gave away all these things, I think she started giving cars away back in like 2004, she got extremely candid with showgoers after awarding them the shiny new vehicles. And Oprah allegedly paid the taxes for each recipient of the cars gifted, by the way, on this show date. So Oprah kicked off her gold high heels, sat down on the edge of the stage, and talked to everybody. And she said, "I know you don't feel like you deserve any of this stuff, and you don't. But you are worthy of it, and I want you to remember that." Now, Davis went on to say, like, oh, this was like a really beautiful moment. But a lot of folks on social media are like, no, I don't think these were words of encouragement. I think this was a very thinly veiled diss. The "none of you deserve it, but you're worthy" kind of sounds like a backhanded compliment. And that's what somebody online said, and I agree. In 2018, Reese Witherspoon revealed that she chewed gum in front of Oprah on the set of A Wrinkle in Time, and that sent Oprah into a rage. Turns out Oprah has very specific rules about chewing gum and also around playing music in the hair and makeup trailer. So it was Reese's first day on set. She played music, and then 3 days later, Oprah's assistant spoke to her saying, now Reese defended herself, being like, I wasn't aware of the rules, literally saying, nobody gave me the Oprah rules. And Oprah later confirmed during an interview with Stephen Colbert that she can't stand to be around people that chew gum. So I guess if you ever work for Oprah, leave the gum at home, folks. Disney rules. Toni Braxton has taken aim at Oprah in a TV expose, alleging that the TV titan was mean to her during a 1998 interview about the singer's financial problems. So the star insists that the TV chat severely damaged her reputation after the host made some choice remarks about her overspending, which led Toni Braxton to declare bankruptcy. So this was a taped interview with VH1 for a Behind the Music special, and Toni said, like, she was so freaking mean to me, I was in shock. She said, I heard you have Gucci flatware. I'm Oprah Winfrey and I don't have Gucci flatware. And she was like, well, you didn't have Gucci flatware because you didn't want to buy it. It's not because you can't afford it. And Toni was like, yeah, she made me feel this big. Thanks to Oprah's weakness for theories that veer towards the decidedly out there, her legacy has been kinda wild. So sure, on one hand, she did endorse a lot of credible things in her heyday. Barack Obama, the East of Eden book, which became a bestseller after being featured on her show, which was like 51 years after it was published. But on the other hand, we have Oprah to blame for the rise of Jenny McCarthy's opinions. You know, the opinion that vaccinations cause autism. She said that on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2007 to disastrous effect. McCarthy has since been repeatedly cited as a factor in the return of diseases such as whooping cough in the US. And Dr. Oz. He first appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 and quickly became part of her expert troupe. Well, he dispenses with facts he doesn't find convenient, and he manifests an egregious lack of integrity by promoting quack treatments and cures in the interest of personal financial gain. He's more like a Kardashian than a surgeon, and according to some of his critics, which includes a lot of his colleagues, they argue that his endorsement under a medical banner of certain remedies is immoral. Now, Dr. Oz has argued that his show is not a medical show, and by that he's kind of saying that you'd be better off taking medical advice from Dr. Pepper. Cool, I'll take a cold one. So on air, Oprah was portrayed as this wholesome sweet lady for years. Turns out, if you ask her stepmother, Oprah is one of the most controlling people you will ever meet. Apparently when Barbara ever was in town and was like, hey, can I stay with you, Oprah? Oprah would be like, no, pay for your own hotel. But when Oprah is visiting Barbara, doors are wide open. Oprah Winfrey paid a fortune to Apple TV Plus chiefs to buy back the rights to a documentary about her life. Apple announced with great fanfare in 2021 that Oscar-winning filmmaker Kevin McDonald would be directing the documentary about the talk show host turned media mogul. However, sources say that McDonald, who teamed up with Winfrey's longtime producer Lisa Esprimer on the project, had clashed with the billionaire after he finished the film, and it's been on hold ever since. Kevin made the film, but Oprah didn't like it and he refused to change it, and Oprah has paid back her fee to Apple, at least according to a well-placed Hollywood source. While industry sources speculate Oprah would have to pay millions to get the rights to the documentary back, a source in the know denies that it was 7 figures. But here's the thing. Oprah's documentary is not the first high-profile release to be put on ice. Netflix's years in the making Prince documentary is being held hostage due to objections from the 7-time Grammy winner's estate. Looks like documentary making isn't exactly profitable these days. Oprah's been rightfully called out for using weight loss medication, despite being a longtime ambassador for Weight Watchers. The famous public figure has confirmed she uses an unnamed substance to help control her weight. This was in a revealing chat, and she said her new slim figure is thanks to the medication and a healthier lifestyle overall. She says, "I now use it as I feel I need it, as a tool to manage not yo-yoing." She added that the fact that there's a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in my lifetime feels like a relief, like redemption, like a gift, not something to hide behind and once again be ridiculed for. In a conversation with People magazine, she concluded that she's absolutely done with the shaming from other people and particularly herself. But here's the thing. A lot of folks and a lot of fans feel like the billionaire philanthropist is being hypocritical. Once again, given she is a proud spokesperson for Weight Watchers. She's worked at that company since 2017. One social media user wrote, "What I don't like about Oprah is she is clearly off doing Ozempic, but yet she's still pushing Weight Watchers." And another was like, "Done with shaming but okay with lying." And a lot of folks called her out, and rightfully so, for letting them believe she did it the old-fashioned way. And they're like, "Why'd you lie?" Well, I can tell you why. The legend of Oprah Winfrey as an extremely poor girl growing up without a father to a too young mother who, as Oprah claimed, carried with shame during pregnancy and then neglected her, spread when Oprah began giving interviews in Chicago. She said, "Oh, how they harmed me. I wanted to be white because I never saw white people being hurt." That's what she said, folks. She remembered her early years as being lonely. She didn't play with anybody except for, I think, the pigs she rode without a saddle in her grandmother's garden. She said, "The only thing I could talk to was the animals in the farmyard. I read them Bible stories. And apparently the years spent with a mother on welfare were even worse. We were so poor we couldn't afford a dog or a cat, so I had 2 cockroaches as pets. I put them in a jar and named them Melinda and Sandy." She entertained her audiences with stories about fetching water from the well, milking cows, emptying the drinking pot, all pretty much a fairy tale. She told her stories about her grandmother who swung a switch, her grandfather who was mean with a stick, the people who raised her for the earliest years of her life. She said, "Oh, how they harmed me." And she mentioned like her grandmother would harm her all the time. It's an integral part of Southern tradition, the way folks raise people. You spill something, game over. You tell a story, game over. She said, "Oh, it could happen all day. Nobody would ever get tired." But here's the thing. Not everybody in Oprah's family agrees with this desperate upbringing. Her mother, Vernita Lee, when asked about her daughter's habits of self-dramatization, said, "Oprah's a bit of a cold smoker." Now, if you're confused there, don't worry. Oprah's sister later dispelled the myth of immense poverty. She said, "Well, of course we weren't rich," but Patricia said that Oprah exaggerated how bad it was for them. She guesses the viewers would love her, the audience would grow if she told these stories. Cockroaches were never her pet. She always had a dog. She had a white cat. She had an eel in a tank. She had a parakeet named Bo Peep that was, learning to speak. Where Oprah got that nonsense about growing up in filth and roaches, I have no idea, according to cousin Catherine Carr Esters. She said, "I've confronted her and asked, 'Why do you tell such lies?' And Oprah said, 'That's what people want to hear. The truth is boring.'" So on air, Oprah's portrayed as this wholesome, sweet lady, this big philanthropist. But according to her stepmother, there is an unknown side to Oprah. This was a side hidden from fans for years. According to Barbara, Oprah is one of the most controlling people you will ever meet. According to Barbara, Oprah would not allow the family to stay at her house when they tried to visit, forcing them instead to stay in hotels, paying out of pocket. Barbara also said that Oprah was quick to anger when it came to her staff, with quite a few people being fired left and right over the years. But that's not all. Despite being a billionaire, Barbara, by the way, allows Oprah to stay at her home for visits, and Oprah's not a fan. So confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Look, Marvel will literally have somebody take you out if even a single line leaks to the public. Well, in Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentions the confidentiality agreements that coworkers and guest stars had to sign to be on any of her shows. So this was like everybody. We're talking like Tom Cruise to the person who made Tom's Muffin. Over 500 staff members over time were forced to sign this document, if not more. One former employee, Elizabeth Cody, tried to read a book about her time working for Oprah. But then again, that NDA, because, well, you signed that agreement, game over. The NDAs were not meant to be a way to keep just show secrets safe, but any and all of Oprah's secrets as well. According to Elizabeth, the documents were signed by almost everybody in Oprah's life. So Elizabeth felt she was kind of being muzzled afterwards. And if you think this didn't extend to the guests, don't worry. In 2010, Unicus Performance Training filed a lawsuit against Oprah and her company Harpo, claiming they never got paid for a workout program they were developing, because Harpo fired them for violating the terms of their confidentiality agreement. How so? Well, UPT sent out a mass email promoting their upcoming appearance on Oprah's radio show, and according to the NDA, they weren't allowed to use Harpo's name, Oprah.com's name, or Oprah's name for advertising or promotional use. But like, they were just promoting their appearance on her show. They weren't saying anything like, hush hush. So Oprah has owned over 21 dogs throughout her lifetime, if we're not even counting the ones she allegedly had in her upbringing. But here's the thing, being a dog mom hasn't come without its challenges. At one point, two of the mogul's dogs were at odds for over a decade, leaving her frustrated as she tried to maintain peace in the house. She even created barriers to keep them from being in the same room. Thankfully, her relief came when she met Cesar Millan, the renowned dog whisperer who transformed the household dynamic. He explained that her house was like maximum security because she had to separate the Cocker Spaniel, Sophie, and the Golden Retriever, Luke. Apparently, this was going on for like 11 years. How did this happen? Well, Oprah's bond with Sophie was particularly deep. In 2011, she shared that one of her greatest teachers was Sophie. Sophie lived for 13 years and came to work with Oprah every day. She was there for every show, she was backstage at the Oscars and the Emmys. She even waited in the car if Oprah went to an appointment. She was so attached to Oprah that if Oprah even left her in a hotel room for 5 minutes, Sophie would start howling. She had separation anxiety and it was really bad. There were so many times that Oprah thought she was going to get kicked out of hotels. Oprah has long been claimed to be a great charitable woman, and recently she's been, an outspoken advocate for the island of Maui. But here's the thing, when everything happened last year, she started a fund. She didn't really donate a lot of money. She was asking for you to give her your money to help everybody else. And a lot of folks were like, hey, why aren't people speaking up about this? Why aren't we calling Oprah out for being a phony? Folks were like, well, she's only really doing this because that's where her vacation home is. She doesn't actually care. And a lot of folks found that really shallow and really awful. Oprah's life will live forever on the silver screen, featuring the good, the bad, and the stuff she might have wanted to keep secret. From surprise family members to hiding behind NDAs and hidden pregnancies, there's a lot to learn. Talk show queen Oprah revealed a bombshell family secret to her viewers in 2011, telling them that she had recently learned she had a half-sister whom her mother had hidden from her for decades. With the way the media works, Oprah said there was no way the story wouldn't eventually get out, so she and her family made the decision to do it on the show because she wanted her viewers to hear it from her first. She said, imagine my shock just a couple of months ago, the end of October, when I found out I have another sister living just 90 minutes away. So just before Thanksgiving 2010, well, American Thanksgiving, Oprah received some news about her family that she says shook her to her core. So Oprah Winfrey's half-sister Patricia, a single mother of two, had been given up for adoption in Milwaukee by Winfrey's mother, Vernita, back in 1963. Now, Oprah was super young at the time of Patricia's adoption. She was living with her father in Nashville. She had no idea her mother was even pregnant. So Patricia was born on April 26th, and from the moment she came into the world, her life was far from easy. She was put up for adoption at birth, and apparently she was left in the hospital for about a month. And then for the next 7 years of her life, she bounced around from one foster home to another before finally being adopted. And all that time, she longed to be reunited with her mother. She had some disbelief that she didn't mean to put me up for adoption. She would just always wish that her mother was going to come back and get her, said Patricia. Then as she got older, she knew that wasn't going to happen. When Patricia was 17, she gave birth to a daughter, Aquarius. 6 years later, she had a son, Andre, and mentioned that her whole goal was she wanted her offspring to, be able to look at her, to see her, to be with them. She spent the next 30 years raising her descendants on her own. What she was grateful for was the people who she had in her life, the people who gave her strength, the people who loved her. She doesn't regret the fact that her mother gave her up because that wasn't the way her life was supposed to go. that was. So Oprah, on the other hand, had 2 siblings, a brother, a sister. Sadly, at the time of all that, they had already passed away. And Vernon, Oprah's father, is not Patricia's father, by the way. So Oprah said on her show, for the most part, her life has been an open book. On her show, she's seen everything. She thought nothing could surprise her anymore. But she was wrong. She described learning about her half-sister as news that shook her to her core. It left her speechless. Now, Patricia said she first discovered her link to the media mogul in 2007 after a lot of years of searching for her mother. And after her mother refused to meet with her, Patricia, who was on the phone with her son Andre, happened to overhear a local news report about Oprah's mom, who was giving new details about her other offspring. Her mother said that 2 of them had passed away, and Patricia knew from her records that she had 2 siblings who had passed away, and she heard that one was named Patricia, one was named Jeffrey. And this Patricia was like, oh my gosh, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up because I knew that one of my siblings and I shared the same name. And she said, no, that can't be. But it was. DNA tests proved that Patricia was an 85% match to Oprah's niece, who was the daughter of the first Winfrey sister named Patricia, who passed away in 2003. We're going to refer to her as Pat for clarification. Despite feeling rejected by her mother, Patricia decided to keep her findings a secret because she didn't want a media frenzy. She remembers just, worrying about Oprah. She was praying to God that nothing got out because she didn't want to hurt her. Now, Oprah's longtime best friend, editor of O magazine, Gayle King, told news outlets that Oprah was stunned. Particularly that the sister she never knew showed so much loyalty. Gayle said, here's a woman who legitimately had a story to sell and didn't. She was just trying to find her mother. Oprah, of course, just turned out to be a bonus. So on Thanksgiving Day, Oprah and her partner Stedman drove to Milwaukee to meet Patricia and Patricia's family for the first time. And since meeting her half-sister and her new niece and nephew, Oprah said she had come to admire their character. And she said what was so remarkable to her about this and what made her cry was just because since she had been a person in the public eye, there had only been a few times that she had been anywhere and not been sold out. There were very few times in her life where she could bring somebody in new and not have that person in some way betray you or use you or take advantage of you. Look, Patricia had tried and tried again to get responses from anybody in that family, and she never once thought to go to the press. She never once thought to sell the story. And when Oprah heard that about her, she said regardless if it's true or not true, she had to meet Patricia because she wanted to meet somebody who had that kind of character. So she thanked her. So a few weeks after the whole DNA test got done, Patricia finally did meet her birth mother, Vernita, for the first time. And she said she just kept looking at her going, I don't know if I look like you or not. She just kept trying to find herself in her. But there's no questioning how much Patricia looks like her half-sister Pat. Now, Pat's daughter Alicia says that meeting Patricia was one of the best gifts she ever could have gotten. Krishanda, Pat's other daughter, first heard about Patricia from Alicia, who then sent her a photo of their newfound aunt. And Krishanda said that when she saw the picture, she just knew it was true. Before even the DNA test, she just knew. And for Krishanda, getting to know Patricia was an emotional process. She said that she knew she had her own personality, her own gifts, but for her, it was a constant reminder of the goodness that Pat represented and personified. Pat had a lot of demons that prevented her from being her best self. And the whole family knew about that, but they feel like Pat speaks on through Patricia. And Oprah did agree that this was closure for her sister who had passed away. But this wasn't Oprah's only epiphany. Turns out when Oprah was younger, she had become pregnant, and that was her big secret. She'd been harmed before that. She became pregnant way too young, and then she was sent to live with her father. And her sister, Pat, went to the tabloids and sold that story. And that caused a big rift between Oprah and Pat because, well, being sold to the tabloids. So when Oprah had left the home of her mother the other day, when she had met Patricia, she realized all of this was a gift to her. Because Pat going to the tabloids, telling Oprah's secret, was a gift in a way because it released Oprah from the shame that her mother still carries, from her mother refusing to meet with Patricia. Oprah was thinking had Pat not sold her story, Oprah would still be exactly where her mother is, stuck in the shame of her secrets. Now, despite the difficulties she faced, Patricia never gave up trying to contact her biological family. She knew that she needed to get it out or get in touch so that nobody else would release that news. So when Oprah asked, why didn't Patricia want to, tell her story, sell her story, get that closure, and Patricia said, it's not fair. Number one, because it's family business, and family business needs to be handled by family. And when Oprah replied that, well, now it's out there, Patricia said, yes, but it was handled by family. It shouldn't be handled by anybody else. That wasn't fair, and it wouldn't be fair to Oprah. So Oprah has other secrets as well. She's a big fan of NDAs. But here's the thing, confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Marvel is very well known for this. If you leak something, we're looking at you, Tom Holland, you're in trouble. Everybody's got to sign one. We're talking if Tom Cruise was on the show, he had to sign one. If you made something for Tom, or if you were one of Tom's entourage, you had to sign one. I think over 500 staff members over the years have had to sign an NDA to work with Oprah. One former employee, Elizabeth Cody, tried to write a book about her time working for Oprah, but was stopped by the courts because she was tied to that lovely NDA. Because these non-disclosures weren't just meant to keep show secrets safe. This was also for Oprah's personal, privacy, which, I get it. According to Elizabeth, anybody in Oprah's life had to sign one of these. But Elizabeth felt kind of, muzzled by all of this. And she's not the only one. In 2010, Unicus Performance Training filed a lawsuit against Oprah and her company Harpo, claiming they never got paid for a workout program they were developing for the company. UPT alleges that Harpo fired them for violating the terms of their confidentiality agreement. Why? And how? Well, UPT sent out a mass email. They were promoting their upcoming appearance on Oprah's radio show, and according to the confidentiality agreement, they weren't supposed to do that. They weren't allowed to use the name of the company, Oprah's name, Oprah's website name, anything for advertising or for promotional purposes, unless of course they wanted to get fired, even though they were just promoting their appearance on her show.
From talking to the royals to promoting a fraud on her show, Oprah Winfrey is known to be controversial and constantly pushes the limits, but sometimes she goes too far. So with that in mind, here's our list of Oprah's most outrageous interviews that caused public backlash. Starting off, we obviously have to talk about Harry and Meghan. Now, Oprah with Meghan and Harry was a 2021 television special hosted by Oprah Winfrey that featured an interview between Oprah, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry. And the interview came the year after Prince Harry and Meghan announced their decision to step down as working members of the British royal family in January 2020. Now, it's kind of ironic that they did this interview because Meghan and Harry claim that one of the reasons why they were stepping down from the royal family was because they wanted their privacy. Now, during this interview, the couple revealed a lot of information. Ahead of the interview, a clip was released of Oprah asking Meghan whether she was silent or silenced during her time as a working royal. Now, after Harry and Meghan took their relationship public, she said she was given a very clear directive from the moment the world knew Harry and I were dating to always say no comment. Now, Meghan also opened up about how she had dark thoughts while being a royal and how she wanted to hurt herself. She also said that she never got the proper mental health care from the palace that she needed. A reading encouraging segment of her talk show that made any selection a bestseller. Now, in September 2005, she picked the book A Million Little Pieces, a memoir by James Frey, about his years-long struggle with addiction. James then actually appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show to discuss the work that she called gut-wrenching. But in January 2006, the Smoking Gun did an investigation and they discovered that James had made up or exaggerated certain parts in his so-called memoir. Now, weeks after the story broke, he returned to the Oprah Show to face angry viewers and a livid Oprah. "I feel duped," she said. "But more importantly, I feel like you betrayed millions of readers," she added, also asking him why he felt the need to lie. Now, he stammered and tried in vain to make excuses, arguing that he altered a lot of the details, but that the overall plot of the memoir was true, to which the studio audience responded with boos, gasps, and groans. Now, this cringeworthy interview was so controversial, Oprah even later apologized to him for not treating him with the empathy she reserved for other guests, regardless of the mistakes they'd made. Now, this whole thing was honestly just so messy. Now we have Tom Cruise's crazy interview. Tom made an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2005 to promote his remake of The War of the Worlds. Now, no one really focused on the movie though, as it was more about Tom's behavior. When the topic changed to who Tom was dating, which was Katie Holmes by the way, Tom couldn't contain his excitement. At different times during the interview, he jumps out of his seat, throws his arms in the air, pumps his fists, falls to his knee, and slaps the ground, squirms, and even tries to walk it all off. Now, the studio audience absolutely loved this. "Something happened to you," a delighted Oprah exclaimed at one point. "I'm in love," Tom explains. And he also jumped on her couch during this interview. In total, he jumped on the couch twice to show his excitement. Now, critics of the interview though weren't so sure, with the Ringer saying it rocked Hollywood and became a turning point for how we discuss and understand celebrities, and not in a good way. Others thought this interview was cute though. It was a new side of Tom that we had never really seen before. Then there was the interview with Elizabeth Taylor in February 1988. Now, back in the day, Elizabeth was a huge star, but at this time she had washed up a little bit, as she appeared in the occasional TV show or miniseries, but she still dominated tabloids and celebrity magazines because of her love life. Now, this included 7 marriages to 6 men at that point. And yes, she married, then divorced, then married and divorced the same man over again. The New Yorker reported that when Oprah landed an interview with Elizabeth, it was the first major celebrity sit-down for the Oprah Winfrey Show, and it was a big deal. There was one rule though that Oprah had to follow during this interview: do not ask Elizabeth about her love life at all. But Oprah decided to ignore this and asked Elizabeth about her relationships. Elizabeth hit back though, saying it was none of your business, and gave Oprah a cold stare. Now this put Elizabeth off, and during the rest of the interview she wasn't as nice. According to Oprah, after that her responses were short and terse, making for bad, boring, and hostile television. At one point Oprah tried to cut the tension by quipping, "You're so revealing, you just tell everything. I declare you've got to stop talking so much, Miss Taylor." Now I can see what she was doing here, as she was trying to bring the mood up, but it didn't work and just made things worse. Cindy Crawford and Elite Model Management founder John Casablancas were interviewed on Oprah's show in 1986. During the segment though, Oprah had the young model stand up so the audience could see her body, which honestly just feels extremely weird. Now, reflecting on the encounter 37 years later on Apple TV's The Supermodels, Cindy said, "I was like the chattel or a child, be seen and not heard. When you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, stand up and show me your body, show us why you're worthy of being here," she said. In the moment I didn't recognize it, and watching it back I was like, oh my gosh, that was not so okay, really, especially from Oprah. And yeah, she's right, that was not okay at all. Now, in the spring of 1996, according to CBS News, the United Kingdom experienced an outbreak of mad cow disease. Now, per the FDA, the disease destroys cows' central nervous system, and if humans eat infected beef, they can contract a deadly variant. Now, during the mad cow scare, the Oprah Winfrey Show booked Howard Lehman. The former cattle rancher had adopted a vegetarian lifestyle and went to work for the Humane Society's Eating with Conscious Animal Welfare campaign, and he appeared on the show to discuss the threat of mad cow to Americans. Now, he pointed out that feeding the remains of mad cow infected cattle to other animals could have facilitated the spread, and that such practices were common in the US. Now, Oprah was left stunned by this. "It has just stopped me cold from eating another burger," she said. Now, with Oprah's influence, right after the episode aired, beef prices plummeted for almost 2 weeks, hitting a 10-year low. As a result, a group of Texas cattle ranchers sued Oprah for $10.3 million, alleging that her remarks caused undue harm to the entire beef industry. One Texas rancher, Paul Engler, lost an estimated $6.7 million and organized a class action libel lawsuit against Oprah and her show's producers for besmirching American beef. But after a 6-week trial in Texas, Oprah won.
So, for example, Seth MacFarlane, he actually addressed Winfrey's promotion of pseudoscience. Folks think of Seth MacFarlane and they think Family Guy. It's hard not to when he not only created it, but voices multiple characters of the hit show. But while many assume Seth wouldn't be the most learned or politically active of people based off of, well, everything about his hit TV series, you'd be wrong. Amid the pandemic in 2020, MacFarlane had a few words for Winfrey, and they weren't silly ones. To quote him, "Oprah has done some wonderfully altruistic things with her career, but the use of her platform to amplify the voices of dubious characters rather than legitimate scientists has been a disservice," MacFarlane wrote in a now deleted tweet. "I hope she will lend her own powerful voice to correct it." The post included an LA Times article link that discussed medical misinformation from Dr. Phil McGraw and Dr. Mehmet Oz. MacFarlane said Winfrey has mostly, quote, "used her platform for good" during a subsequent interview with Vice, but the exception is the elevation of these purveyors of pseudoscience. People like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, all the way back to Jenny McCarthy and the anti-vax movement, he continued, and it's a strange dichotomy that I think a lot of people, particularly right now, are having trouble reconciling. You know, this person who's done all this positive work for the world, and yet somehow they've still gotten caught up in this web of junk science on many occasions. So it's a tough thing to balance, he concluded, and expressed that people should be forming their own opinions and not be so quick to accept what's shown on Oprah's show. Meanwhile, an Oscar-obtaining obsessed Oprah had a mean streak against the actress and comedian Monique, who has never shied away from saying it. Monique is an SA survivor and she won an Oscar in 2010, so you know that makes her Oprah's arch nemesis if you know anything about Oprah. And wouldn't you know it, it's the same year that Oprah chose to invite her onto the show and surprise her with her whole family coming on stage during the interview, including the brother who had SA'd her. So Oprah allowed Monique's parents and her brother to then berate and gaslight her on national TV, and in the interview, Oprah also acknowledged that she was aware of the beef between Monique and her mother at the time she did this. Monique confronted Oprah about going behind her back and exploiting her trauma for views, clicks, and attention, and Oprah said she would check into that, but never called Monique back. Monique then confronted Oprah the next time they saw each other in person at a celebrity event, and Oprah issued a half-assed apology under, peer perspective. Within a month though, she's gotten Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels to help her engage in a smear campaign which labeled Monique as difficult to work with, and other meager rumors, all because she was not okay with Oprah exploiting her trauma in a way she didn't approve of. Monique's career suffered as a result, and when asked about the events that transpired, a very defeated Monique said in 2015 sarcastically that, "I wasn't blackballed, I was whiteballed. Thank you Miss Winfrey, thank you Mr. Perry, and thank you Mr. Daniels." Ludacris was given the third degree on his Oprah visit once, appearing on the show to promote Crash 2004. He claimed she ambushed him with criticism about his hip-hop lyrics, instead of talking about the critically acclaimed movie he was there to plug, and the interview was even edited in Winfrey's favor. "She edited out a lot of my comments while keeping her own in," Luda told GQ. "Of course, it's her show, but we were doing a show on racial discrimination, and she gave me a hard time as a rapper when I came on there as an actor." He added, "Initially I wasn't even invited on the show, and they called me the night before to tell me I could be on. So after the taping, she pulled me into the room and we have a 5-minute conversation. What I got was that by having rappers on her show, she feels like she's empowering them, and that's a bad thing. It was like being at someone's house who doesn't really want you there. It was already uncomfortable." The Beast Mode MC added that she criticized him for using the N-word in his lyrics, and said, "I don't see why people like Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, who I'm huge fans of, it's okay for them to go on Oprah. They speak the same language as I do, but they do it through comedy, so I guess that's acceptable to her." Ice Cube had similar feelings to Luda. The NWA founder expressed he'd always felt ostracized by Winfrey intentionally because he was never invited on her show, despite many of his cinematic co-stars always being invited to chat with her on air. Sometimes entire main casts of productions Ice Cube was part of were brought onto Oprah's shows, with Ice always being told he was not on the invite list. To quote him, "I've been involved in 3 major projects pitched to her, but I've never been asked to participate," the NWA founding member told FHM in July of 2006. "For Barbershop 2002, she had Cedric the Entertainer and Eve on, but I wasn't invited. Maybe she's got a problem with hip-hop." Ice also added a pretty savage point that she's had damn R-wordists and child creepers and lying authors on her show, and if I'm not a rags to riches story for her, who is? Back to her Oscar obsession, you'll notice Oprah snubbed 2 celebrity winners, so this is a double trouble segment. First, in author Katie Kelly's Unauthorized Oprah, a biography, Kelly claims that Whoopi Goldberg and Winfrey got testy after Goldberg was nominated for an Oscar in her role in The Color Purple 1985, but Oprah wasn't. The book notes that following Goldberg's honor, the comedian never appeared on Winfrey's show again and was noticeably shunned from Winfrey's 2006 Legends Ball. It wasn't until Winfrey invited the entire cast of The Color Purple onto her show that she and Goldberg reconnected, and they addressed the perceived bad blood between them. Turns out it was just a misunderstanding, according to Oprah, allegedly, because Angelica Houston had also been treated the same since Oprah's Oscar nomination and loss in 1986. The Oscar winner, Houston, explained she had never had me on her show, ever, and now she won't talk to me. "The only encounter I've had with Oprah was when I was at a party for the Academy Awards at a private residence. I was talking to Clint Eastwood and she literally came between us with her back to me. So all of a sudden, I'm confronted with the back of Oprah's head." When asked why the normally classy Winfrey behaved that way towards Angelica, Houston candidly calls it how she perceives it. "Well, nobody else would dislike me so much so as to literally physically come in between the person I was talking to. God knows she's made some big steps." If you're so obsessed with obtaining an Oscar, you have a temper tantrum that continues on for 38 years, 38 with someone you've never spoken to before or after, that's crazy. That's bat bleep crazy. And one family with a bone to pick is most definitely family, the Jacksons. Janet Jackson was reportedly livid with Winfrey after the talk show host invited the children of her late brother Michael Jackson onto her show in 2010. She thinks Oprah took advantage of Michael's children for TV ratings. Janet told her Michael would be heartsick that Oprah used the kids as pawns, a source told the National Enquirer at the time. The two women had a blistering blow up during a telephone call on the day that the show was taped. When Oprah made it clear that she was going ahead with the interview, Janet screamed, "Oprah, you make me sick." Janet and Michael's brother Randy Jackson was also not a fan of Winfrey. After Winfrey interviewed their parents, Joe and Catherine Jackson, in October of 2010, Randy was reportedly furious and tweeting, "I know how Oprah feels about my brother and family." According to TMZ, Randy followed these tweets up claiming that Winfrey was airing episodes about predators during Michael's 2005 trial as a deliberate airtime move. Randy also believed Winfrey wanted Michael in jail and wanted to profit off of getting him there however she could. To quote, "That was no coincidence. She is the last person on earth Michael would want around his children." Oprah's interactions with Jonathan Franzen was a warning in of itself as well, without the man ever having to say a peep about it. So the famed author began his beef with Winfrey when he dissed her legendary Oprah's Book Club in 2001 by telling Salon that her choices for it were one-dimensional and schmaltzy. Absolutely accurate on Jonathan's end, and it seems, just to stick it to him, Oprah then chose his book, The Corrections, for her book club in response. Jonathan got the message. He's put in an awkward position. Admit, as an author, his work is one-dimensional and schmaltzy because it's part of her book club he described that way, or damage his sales. Franzen's decision was a hard one, and he expressed feeling conflicted, and that "I don't see this as my book, my creation. I didn't want that logo of corporate ownership over it." It wasn't the answer Oprah wanted, however, and in response, she rescinded her offer to host Franzen on her show, and then Franzen had his book sales threatened. This forced the author to backpedal on his remarks and claim that they were taken out of context, saying, "I said things ended up hurting Winfrey's feelings. I feel bad because the person being hurt is actually a really good person for American writing and reading," he generically told the New York Times. It seems the subtle threats worked because Franzen got back in line and these two made peace. In 2010, Winfrey chose another one of his books, The Freedom, for her book club and hosted him on the show. Cindy Crawford was also made to low-key pimp herself out, otherwise face Oprah's wrath. Last year, supermodel Cindy Crawford, 58, spoke out about how Oprah Winfrey, 68, made her feel like chattel or a child to be seen and not heard when the TV host had her back on the show in 1986 when she was just 20 years old at the time. During the interview, Oprah asked the young model to show off her body, which Crawford now interprets as a moment where she had to prove her worth, as proven in how Oprah's heard even introducing the young model. Did she always have this body? Stand up for just a moment. Now this is what I call a body. Reflecting on how she felt in that moment, Cindy admitted, "When you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, stand up and show me your body, show us why you're worthy of being here." The mom of two continued, "In the moment I didn't recognize it, and watching it back I was like, oh my gosh, that is so not okay really, especially from Oprah." Many of Hollywood's elite fully support Winfrey, even when she behaved like this since the 80s, but Scream star and Me Too activist Rose McGowan isn't one of them. McGowan tweeted in 2014 a photo of Winfrey kissing the cheek of a certain disgraced producer and director that was taken down by the Me Too movement. You know the one. He and Oprah had been very close and had numerous business ventures together, which probably inspired Rose to write this following message. "I am glad more is seeing the ugly truth of @Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't. From being pals with director's name to abandoning and destroying Russell Simmons' victims, she's about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She is as fake as they come. #Lizard." McGowan captioned the tweeted image. Winfrey previously addressed the controversy, saying she didn't know about the director's alleged actions with women, but McGowan's one of those who've been outspoken against the producer and pointing fingers at his friends, such as Oprah. Which leads us to our last finger pointer, Seal. I know, right? Kinda like an odd guy to top it off with, but the dude really went in on her. See, after the Me Too stuff came out and just days after the Golden Globes in January 2018, the singer posted a meme on Instagram, one consisting of several photos of Winfrey cozying up with the aforementioned evil Me Too director, including one where it appears like Winfrey's pushing singer Rita Ora towards the disgraced movie mogul. Seal captioned the images in a seeming response to Oprah's insistence she knew nothing of the disgraced actor's doings. "Oh, I forgot, that's right. You'd heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially violating young starry-eyed actresses, who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad." Meanwhile, the meme itself read, "When you've been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you're the solution." solution. So viewers, is she part of the problem, or is Oprah just conveniently terrible to a bunch of people and they all dislike her for valid reasons? You decide. Better yet, argue amongst yourselves in the comments. Share with friends to get their take.